I just want to begin by acknowledging the words that are in our Amidah that we only get to say on Rosh Chodesh, on festivals, but they're so moving and they really speak to me in this moment. They're on page 174. It says, on this Chag of Sukkot, on this festival of Sukkot, Zochrenu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova, it says, be mindful of us and your people Israel for good and for love and for compassion and for life and for peace. Ufokdenu bo livracha, remember us with blessing, with well-being, v'hoshi'inu bo l'chaim, and help us to a fuller life. I'm moved by that in these days, that on the holiday of Sukkot, as we ask God to bless us with well-being, blessing, with the fullness of life, that we find ourselves very much at a moment of in-between. We construct and we sit in temporary booths, a physical manifestation of transition between one thing and the next, between the High Holy Days and the rest of the year, like the Israelites between Egypt and the Promised Land. And this weekend, we not only sit with the in-between of the holiday, but the in-between of Simchat Torah 2023 and Simchat Torah 2025, it seems like. Between the start of a ceasefire, God willing, a return of hostages, God willing, an end of the war in Gaza, and a yet to be known outcome, which we certainly hope will be in the way that we continually and fervently pray for. And so with a very cautious optimism, we arrive at this moment of in-between when we think we can begin to breathe and believe in hope again. The possibility of living, of all the living hostages coming home, brings an exhale of enormous proportions. A wave of profound joy and possibility, and yet joy that we hold alongside a deep sadness and loss. Of course, we do not know their physical and psychological state. We know that their journey of healing will be a lifetime. And we hold the grief that many funerals will be had in the coming days and weeks for the hostages who have been killed in captivity. And yet, we are seeing images of celebration in Israel, in Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, of families rejoicing and knowing that there seems to be an end in sight. After all the longing and protesting and pleading and crying, collectively it feels as though we can locate a sense of our hope again, even amidst our greatest fear that it all unravels once again. But we know hope ebbs and flows. We carry the foundation of hope within us, but in the last 2 years, its light has been so diminished. So now, as we wait, as we share this transitional and in-between moment together, we can feel this light of hope growing brighter ever so slightly. And our tradition knows this kind of waiting well. Abraham waited for God's promise to be fulfilled. Our ancestors waited and wandered in the wilderness. Generations in exile waited to rebuild Jerusalem. And waiting in our tradition is not filled with emptiness, but rather we, like our ancestors, fill it with a sense of hope and purpose. The question isn't whether we must wait, but how we will fill the waiting. How we will nurture the hope that makes waiting possible in the first place. And I believe the Sukkah reminds us that hope does not come from stability, but rather from the uncertainty. This week, on October 7th, our TBE community had the privilege of visiting the Nova Festival exhibition in South Boston. an exhibit that's open actually till the 21st. And if you were not able to go with us, we'll share how you can get there. This exhibit memorializes the lives taken and bearing witness to the survivors of the attack 2 years ago. And after walking the exhibit, a panel of survivors spoke to us, sharing their stories of loss and trauma with profound courage. And an audience member asked, "What can we do to help you and other survivors?" And this is what they said. "Share these stories. Learn about the survivors and our journey to begin healing. Honor those who were killed and learn more about who they were in life. Go to the exhibition, bring others, and tell the world what happened that day." And Noah, a designated spokesperson for the Noba Tribe Foundation, said something else, something profoundly spiritual. Spread light, spread love, spread hope. She reminded us that the festival itself, Nova, was about music and joy and light and community, and that the one thing we can all do to honor that is by enjoying music and dancing and living with the hope that all the survivors and their families will dance again. Now, I was struck by the setup of the Nova Festival, that it was held under a canopy, a sukkah of sorts, open on all sides in order to spread light and love and hope. And in these days of waiting, of anticipating what will be, I find myself reflecting back on my own first memory of Israel. A moment that even as a young child filled me with a sense of hope that has carried me ever since. My first concrete memory of anything related to Israel was watching Rabbi and Arafat sign the Oslo Peace Accords on the White House lawn. The memory of that moment has always connected me and my Zionism to hope and possibility, even when fraught, even when peace has felt elusive. And it occurred to me just today that 40 years from now, there's going to be someone who is a young child today, perhaps even sitting here tonight or was with us in the sukkah earlier, whose foundational memory of Israel will not be the last 2 years, but rather perhaps the sunrise on Tuesday morning. Will not be fraught with tension and war, but with whatever comes next, hope and peace and possibility. There is tikva, there is hope in that. Hope that someone's story begins after this war ends. Hope that this is all unfolding on Sukkot to remind us that this period of time is a transition to something we have not yet realized. And waiting is difficult, and the unknown, of course, is quite scary. And yet we have the gift of hope, which is the gift of Sukkot. 146 years ago, in 1878, a 22-year-old from a small town in what is now western Ukraine, Naftali Herz Imber, wrote a poem called Tikvatenu, Our Hope. A poem born out of the challenges of Jewish life in the diaspora and his deep belief in the possibility of a return to Israel. That poem became the foundation of Hatikva, the Hatikva we know today as Israel's national anthem. It was written in a time of waiting, of longing, and of uncertainty, and yet it dared to proclaim that hope had not been lost. May we also find the continued strength and courage to proclaim the same. Just as we have done every single day for the last 2 years, we have not given up hope that the hostages will come home. That hope, fragile, fleeting, sacred, lives within us. And for the last 2 years, we have been in that temporary space, longing and nourishing a belief and hope. And in so many ways, still dwelling in the Sukkot that we built in 2023. And this weekend, all the more so, do we live in the in-between, half knowing, half hoping for whatever is next, whatever will come to be. It is uncertain and certainly fragile. And yet, even here, forever and always, our hope endures. Because hope is not hereditary, but something we choose again and again. And we see this in our sacred texts as well. Towards the very end of the Tanakh, we find the book of Nehemiah. And in it, we read about the period of life for our people right after the Babylonian exile. And there's a central figure in the book, and his name is Nehemiah, a leader who guides the Jewish people in rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem and returning to the rituals of Jewish life. In the 8th chapter, we read, "Those who returned from captivity made booths and dwelt in them. The Israelites had not done so for the days since Joshua, and there was a very great rejoicing." This was the first Sukkot after the exile, after the destruction of the first temple. The first time our people could celebrate again in their own land after generations of displacement. And what did they do? They built Sukkot. They built temporary dwellings. They had finally come home, and yet they sat in structures that could blow away with the wind. So why? Because Sukkot isn't about permanence. It's about the sacred and fragile in between. The space between captivity and freedom, where we wait, choose hope, and trust that joy will soon return. And so rejoicing of our ancestors during this festival of Sukkot wasn't because everything was the way it was supposed to be, but it was because they could hope again. And so as we, as a community, sing the words of Hatikva, my hope is that as we have always shared our prayers for the hostages to hear, that even more so today, they hear our cry of hope alongside their own, calling out from our Sukkot to theirs, that once again, in a time, God willing, will be soon, that there will be, as Nehemiah says, a great rejoicing once again at home. Shabbat Shalom.
Hatikva can be found on page 678 in your prayer books. Our Israeli flag is in this direction. If you're able, please rise.
Yerushalayim.